Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This is our second official episode. Today's topic is Tartaria and the resetting of civilizations. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Should we do something lighter or should we stick to that? Okay. We could also talk. Okay, cool. Well, I guess I definitely did want to talk about how civilizations have been reset many times in the past, not just the Great Flood that's talked about in Noah's time. And yeah, that's kind of where I'll say I'll begin. Like, have you heard of Petra or like petrified? Yeah. So it's interesting because I've been hearing that, or through research, I've been discovering that a lot of petrified countries and areas are because whole societies have been burned down and it's kind of like the remains. Like, let me screen share. Yeah, let's get into that. Let's get into that. Yeah. Yeah, like I've seen a few pictures and I would love to find some, which I'm looking some up right now, but there are a lot of like structures that are huge underground and just the top of it is poking out above ground. And the part that's poking out above ground looks so big that it looks like a structure standing alone on itself, but there's a lot beneath it. Right, right, literally. And it's interesting you're bringing this up because I definitely did think when I think about Tartaria, I think a lot about I think a lot about how supposedly a lot of buildings, I don't know if they put dirt over it intentionally or if it's because of a cataclysmic event resulting in like dirt being built on top of things, but it's crazy that these buildings were built to last and they withstood all of that. And I also kind of wanted to talk about the underground structures throughout the US and the world. In the US and the world, basically. Because in the US, there's a very intricate and very large underground system. And it was created before the 1900s. So there were definitely advanced societies who were doing things that we don't talk about in class. Like, but even to this day, there are a lot of underground military bases. Um, Generation Z, a podcast that we're inspired by, talks a lot about DUMBs, DUMBS, deep underground military bases, and how a lot of things that are hidden from us occur in these places. And these bases were built over 100 years ago, and there's like a subway system that connects all of the major cities in America that can only be accessed through these military bases. So there's something fishy going on over there. I hear that the deeper you go in these bases, the more secret things become. Like they say, very deep in military underground bases is where the real and the humans come in contact with each other and kind of negotiate. How do you, sorry, go on. How do you feel about the real? I know we've talked about it before. Mhm. I wonder, and I guess I see what you mean. There is some musical influence, like for example, the cover of what is that Young Thug cover with his eye bleeding? So apparently when it comes to vril, and I guess we didn't really define what a vril is, which we could and should. They're seen as very small reptilian. I'll share screen a picture of a vril, but they're known to be small reptilian creatures that basically are far less intelligent than humans, but their consciousness can be their consciousness is parasitic, and they could transfer their consciousness from themselves to another human. And when they do that, the vril itself, which is what I'm showing here, um, dies, but its consciousness lives on through the human, and the human's consciousness dies. So what is the significance of this? When using a vril, they call them drones because a human can have relations with a vril and manipulate them and use the vril to hijack somebody else's consciousness and basically be on the same page with the vril in terms of how they want this person to act and present themselves in our world. So vril benefit from this because since they're on a lower level of consciousness, their consciousness blasts into space when they fuse with a human, basically. So we brought up like the Young Thug cover, and this cover, Slime Season 3, this is symbolism of real enter because they enter through the eye, which makes your eye bleed and get messed up for a bit, but they enter through one of your eyes, and it's a sort of ritual that people go through, and it symbolizes that their consciousness has been hijacked. They are now a drone, for whatever purpose. They do whatever purpose of whoever initiated that, basically.
I also try to observe when I see pictures of artists. Oh, oops. When I see pictures, just recent pictures of artists, sometimes, and I thought, that was like a simply, I mean, it's all connected, but I used to primarily think it had to do with the Illuminati one eye symbolism. But I do notice that sometimes they point one eye towards the camera and put one in the shadows of either their own face or the lighting. And it's like even in photos that seems like were not planned, like
Right.
paparazzi photos,
Hmm.
or I try to observe if one is a little bit bruised, or sometimes it even looks like one eye, like if I were to cover one in the picture, it looks like one eye looks different than the other. Like there are two people looking through either eye, two consciousnesses looking through either eye. And I think that's kind of strange.
Right. I definitely kind of see what you mean with the like double consciousness thing. And there's a lot to be said about one-eyed symbolism. And when celebrities are in photo shoots and paparazzi and all this stuff, covering their eye or covering their mouth, which represents the silence symbolism to show that they took a vow of silence, or whether they're throwing up the devil horns like rock star symbol to symbolize all of these things when they do it on camera. It's to show the people that they associate with that they are a part of the allegiance, that they are participants of this larger scheme. So every time I see that, that's exactly what I think. And sometimes they don't even know. Like there are some photo shoots where a stylist could tell them, hey, just put your hand over your eye, put your finger over your lips. And they might have no idea what it means, but the people above them do. And that's tricky.
That's right. Aren't they like parasites?
Yeah, they're parasitic in nature. They literally are parasites. Like their consciousness is a parasite
They
because it
can't
can go
live,
from one host, it can go from one being to the other.
right? They can't live outside of a host by themselves, can they?
They can, but their lifespan is significantly shorter than a human's.
Hmm.
So, and it's kind of widely said that Vril prefer to, that's kind of their purpose in life. That's what they want to do. They want to fuse with a human in their lifetime if possible. That is transcendence for the Vril. So not every Vril can access a human, but some do. I'm gonna share screen a picture of Salvador Dali holding a Vril. Let me find it first though. We've looked at this picture before. A lot of celebrities, even if they don't necessarily take their Vril themselves, they're aware of them. And bringing up the deep underground military bases, like these, they only really survive when the sun is down. It has been said that, and this is a picture of Salvador Dali holding a Vril. It's not that difficult to find. You can see I Googled Salvador Dali holding a Vril. Like but but yeah, so it's been said that there was a time where more Vril were above ground and they would only come out at night, but they were getting slaughtered basically. And in a sense, they prefer human protection, which is why they reside in military bases all over the world. But there's a couple of things I hear that happen in these bases, like when they talk about coming in contact with aliens, and I put that in air quotations, um, they talk about that happening underground too, like the peace accords between an extraterrestrial civilization and basically the United Nations happened underground. And it was a treaty of sorts to say, okay, you don't hurt us, we don't hurt you. In fact, we can benefit each other. And the rest is history.
Hmm.
I know I
I'm
kind
not
of went off
familiar
on a
with it.
tangent there.
No,
What?
you're fine. I'm not super familiar with that. I didn't know that it happened underground.
Yeah, a lot of these things are unseen, and the entrances for deep underground military bases are always so low key in the middle of nowhere. So it's like they truly don't want to be messed with or seen. And it's funny because a lot of us talk about how secretive Area 51 is. Well, theoretically, there's like Area 51 all over the country underground, like doing research far beyond our comprehension and in direct contact with quote unquote extraterrestrials underground. And I kind of wanted to talk about extraterrestrials since we're in the beginning stages of our podcast. It might be helpful to for us to define or like how do you see extraterrestrials or aliens? What do you believe them to be?
Well, as you know, I'm leaning towards, I don't think life off of Earth is as we are told it is, or as we imagine it to be. I think life, extraterrestrial life, is from spiritual planes more so than physical planets in our solar system.
Right,
Um, I do believe that they're already on Earth and have been for a long time. I believe that they have been interfering probably since the beginning, the very beginning of humanity. And the evidence can be seen in many, many things. And there are many allusions to beings that are not human throughout history and throughout mythology of all different cultures. And I think the Vril could be one type of them.
right.
I think um, I'm very interested in the quote unquote gray ones, those stereotypical
Right.
looking aliens, the little ones with the big heads. Those are very interesting to me. And I would like to find more information on their origins because I haven't yet found any spiritual or dimensional mention of their origins, just
Mhm.
that they are and they exist. I think that fallen angels can also be thought of as extraterrestrials.
Right. I think there's something there.
I think perhaps they manifest themselves as different species of them even.
Mhm. Right. Like there could be different races, quote unquote, of extraterrestrials, like there are different races of humans that look different and act different.
I mean, there are for sure.
Definitely. Above ground, below the sea. And. It's interesting because like from the way I see the world to be created, I don't necessarily believe that aliens are from a different planet per se. I believe that they are of Earth, but maybe more native than us in a sense. Um, and I resonate with you bringing up fallen angels because I also believe extraterrestrials to be a spiritual thing as well, like beings that their mind and their spirit is on a higher plane than us, so much so that they are so much more advanced than us technologically, psychologically. Like the fact that it's kind of known that aliens, quote unquote, perform telekinesis. The fact that they can materialize and dematerialize, that they can bypass what we consider normal conventions of space and time, space time or time, and just space in the world. I do feel like that is supernatural. Um, and in America, we tend to sensationalize things and we love to like put them, characterize things. Um, but I do wonder sometimes if aliens, quote unquote, are literally just like fallen angels that are more advanced than us and come down and occasionally teach us things to advance our society. Or I
I
hear
feel like
that,
that.
right? And so I'll conclude with this. I hear that when nuclear weapons are dropped in the world, um alien entities have discussions with world leaders and talk about how not only is it destructive for the world, but it's destructive for the electromagnetic forces that we have. So I'm just saying that to say that I think throughout society, alien species have been in cahoots with like people who are in the higher power. Even like on hieroglyphics, you'll see aliens and all that. Uh, and I call them aliens because we can all kind of form an image of a UFO flying by with that. But again, they might just be on a different level spiritually to the point where they can manipulate reality in a way we can't, you know?
Right. I mean, there have been people in the Air Force and in the Navy that have been seeing these unidentified flying objects for so long that now the US is actually letting the public know, like officially,
Oh
that
yeah.
of these reports, because it's like I watched this short video that was talking about how they had to address it because some of these pilots and soldiers, they would see this and it would interfere with some things, and like they would pick these up on radars and sonars, and it became so often that some of them became scared to bring it up
Hmm.
because they thought they would be ridiculed. And in the video, they were phrasing it as, oh, it can be like another country with technology that we don't know about, and we must investigate for national security. But I think it's going to be, I think they're releasing this information and letting the public know because it's going to become something that is going to be undeniable.
Huh.
And I also think that human world leaders, as well as alien entities that they're communicating with, I think they might be preparing the public for those entities to become more public. I feel like this is just the beginning of them becoming more socially acceptable and just socially known. Because if if you start small and slow with this, there's gonna
Mhm.
be a point where if the government and the media act like this is normal, then the people will follow.
Right. You're so right.
Even if
That's
they
with
think it's
everything.
weird, they will follow because that's what they see on the news. That's what they see in the articles, and it's like, well, if the government is saying that this is normal and good, well, even if they don't trust the government, because there are many who don't,
Mhm.
at the same time, they don't really take that too far. And I feel like they're preparing to become more visible.
Absolutely. I think so too, because I feel like over the course of a few decades, America has been trying to make aliens seem more and more appealing and kind of fun and kind of like, oh, even to the point where I at some points wanted to get abducted by aliens just to see what it would be like. But,
Even before that, I wanted to.
you know, so I feel like they're definitely working to make it more appealing, to your point. And there's definitely something there with that. You ever heard of Project Bluebeam?
Yes. I
So
actually saw this crazy, my bad.
you're
This
good.
is really quick. I actually saw this projection looking thing. I was on TikTok, shamelessly. But it was uh a character from the show Loki, and they showed it somewhere in LA, and it looked so real. It was like this portal opened up, and the character from Loki that had horns and looked like an alien negative entity mixture,
Hmm.
like said something, and it was very, very 3D, very real. And then he went back into the little portal and just closed up, and they said it was a projection. And I was thinking, and the comments mirrored this thought that I had, man, if this were somewhere else, not even another time, if this were somewhere else in the world, what would they think that was? Would their
What would they
minds
think?
go to, oh, technology, projection?
Right.
Or would they think, oh my gosh, this is an entity saying hello?
For real, you're so right.
So
And
where,
reality is literally perception too, because like if if aliens were never so normal, let's just say if I never ever ever heard of aliens before, I've never seen a gray whatever, and one encountered me, like say if I literally never heard of it before, I would probably think this is some like supernatural ass stuff, but the fact that they make it seem like these are tangible people with different consciousnesses and it's just a different type of human and they're really like organizing the narrative for us, that makes people like when they see it they're not going to think it's something related to the supernatural, they're going to think it's an alien, they're going to think
exactly,
it's something cool.
they might even think it's special effects. Like, wow, technology.
Yeah. And the reason this was kind of brought up is because of Project Bluebeam, because like um holographic technology is getting so advanced that they're able to make projections in the sky that seem 3D. And well, this is called Project Bluebeam. You can look it up yourself. You know, it's a part of the CIA's declassified documents, part of Freedom of Information Act. But it's just like projections in the sky that make people like they can make people think that Jesus is here based off of projections in the sky. They can make people think that um there's like some stuff going on. Just like anything really, because of how advanced and HD and 3D-fied the technology is.
And these little projections for fun or for ads really make me feel like they're testing this technology out and measuring the public's reaction to it and reading these comments to see, can they tell it's real? What do they think about this? Um,
Right.
how many of them can tell it's real, and what factors of the projection make it so? And how can we fix that?
Mhm. Right.
That's what it made me think of.
Huh. I see what you
Like, it
mean.
wasn't first, but it was the most flamboyant that I've seen. Like, it was the most realistic one, but it wasn't the first that I've seen of that type of effect, like in the sky. But it was the most HD, like the most advanced that I've seen so far. So it's like, okay, it seems like they're testing it. It seems like they're testing it. And every time one pops up, there's really no explanation, and it's never a video posted by the company or by the person that projected it. It's always some person that saw it and
Mhm.
recorded it and posted it. Like, it's never whoever
You're so
created
right. It's never whoever created it. You're right. It's almost like, yeah, it's like they're trying to hide it for real. Or
it. I
not even
wonder,
that they're trying to hide it, but they're not vocal about it. It's like if you know, you know. Because mass society, how people become in agreement about certain concepts is when it comes on the news, when it's plastered everywhere and when everyone's talking about it. But if it's just something that it's like your feed has to be catered enough for you to run into that, it might not meet like mass mind.
right. Back to Tartaria though. You
Mhm.
should look up a White House picture if you can find it.
Okay, what should I look up?
Um, I suppose underground components of White
Oh
House or
yeah.
part of White House.
Yeah, there's a whole underground tunnel structure.
I feel like that building was here before. I feel like that building was not built like in the time that they said it was built. Because if there's an underground component, that means to me that that building was built by people before the Europeans came,
Yeah.
before this set of pilgrims came.
But if you think about it, like there have been ancient civilizations have dug underground, like civilizations that have predated the predated BC damn near or predated AD. And it's like these civilizations have dug underground all over the world. And I don't know why we somehow always think that America was untouched in history, like there was nothing going on in America when the rest of the world was building above and underground. But I feel like
Right.
they used to build things to last, and we're literally still using old structures just remodeled.
I agree. That's not
Yeah.
it.
Sorry, I
No,
mean,
you're good.
you can, if you find the perfect picture, definitely,
True. I will look.
yeah. But it's interesting. I've heard of it though. Like I heard that, that's how Marilyn Monroe would come to meet JFK by driving underground, so she would be undetected. And it's like, I live in Chicago right now, and a lot of people in Chicago know about the history of the Chicago fire. Like, um, even the show and the fire department now is named after Chicago fire, the big fire that happened. And that was one of those examples of history or a civilization being reset because it was very advanced. It was very advanced in the 1800s. You know, the World Fair had technological devices beyond our comprehension. Nikola Tesla was thriving in the 1800s and he had inventions that we can't even fathom today. So there were points where like we're more advanced, but all across the United States there were these giant fires that basically wiped out the major population centers of major cities in America. And because you were just bringing up Tartaria, and Tartaria is known to people as that civilization in America of technological advances beyond our comprehension that predated the 1900s, and how basically over the course of a few short years, all of America was reset through big fires and mass executions um, across whole cities and states, across whole states. And there's so many layers to Tartaria. There's so many layers. Like we didn't even get to discuss the blimps in Tartaria. So, you know, just for safety purposes, I'll say this is all speculation, but some people believe and have evidence of the richest of the rich knowing when certain societies would be burned down, and they would go in blimps and kind of float to a safer place, and like technologically advanced blimps, by the way. Um, but that was a thing in Tartaria as well. Um, the rich people fleeing because they knew that society would be reset and they would die with them if they stayed. Or just like how in Leave the World Behind, the richest built underground bunkers because they had an end to know that society was going to be reset. History repeats itself. Like this has happened in the past too, and which has led way to some of these like for example, the White House underground, like which has led way to these structures because the rich needed somewhere to escape where they would be away from danger in case one of these things happen.
Right. Hmm. I
Dude,
s-
and we sorry.
I texted you two pictures that I found
Oh
of
wow.
when the basement was being repaired in the White House or something like that.
Okay. Wow. Whole structure underneath. And what's crazy is there's definitely probably stairs going from that structure to even lower.
Just sent you a picture of the Capitol building. That that part that they unearthed is now part of the original. Like it's out.
Wow.
It's out now. And it was buried.
And that's yeah, it's there's so many pictures like this regarding Tartarian civilization. Some people should really check out the channel on YouTube, Mind Unveiled or Autodidactic. They do a really good job talking about Tartaria, and they have so many picture examples of how basically the foundation of a lot of buildings we see right now are built above a completely separate building, and the bottom of these buildings look like the bottom. They look like they were built on ground, but no, it's like a deeper structure. Like if you can see the screen, even this part right here, that's like directly on the ground, the stairs from the top to the bottom of the White House, even that structure, it's directly connected to like openings and pillars of the ground below. Like this is if